coming, the sun's zooming in, meltdown expected, the wheat is good there, engines stop running, but I have no fear, 'cause London is drowning.
Hello everybody and welcome to the By the Minute Arsenal podcast, our 54th. It's not a particularly exciting number, but then it hasn't been a particularly exciting week. Arsenal did manage to cobble together 4 points in the Premier League, but not in a particularly exciting way, but 4 points is 4 points, we'll take it. Let's get to it then quickly. Introductions, I am Matt H. We also have Pete. Hello Pete.
Hello Matt, and it's lovely to be with you this evening.
Oh, that's very kind of you to say so. No one ever says that, that's very nice. And we also have Matt V. Hello Matt.
Evening. I think we'll do well to talk about both games for more than a combined 30 seconds.
Yeah, I'm wondering how we may. It's very nice of Pete to say how nice it is to be here when this must be, I fear, one of the pods with the least material to go over. But let's get to it then, because there's certainly some interesting stuff to preview, even if it's not that much to review. And there are a couple of points of interest in the game. So let's go back first of all to last Wednesday. We were away at West Ham, and it was 0-0. And I saw barely any of this due to a prior engagement, and it seems like I got a bit lucky there. I'm going to leave it up to the others really to talk about this in any great detail. I mean, the team news, we had Iwobi starting, and Maitland-Niles, so there was a couple of interesting team news there. I don't really know where to start with this. 0-0. Matt, any thoughts on the team news or in general about this game? We can probably zip through this one pretty quickly.
Yeah, I mean, I made the mistake of prioritising this over The Apprentice, which I soon regretted. But no, the team was interesting. We went to back four with Maitland-Niles at left back, Giroud up front instead of Lacazette, and as you said, it won't be in the midfield three. So it was something a bit different. But I mean, as we'll come on to, the team was different. The performance and style of performance was not. It was another example of us sort of having all the possession, passing side to side, and it being as painful in 90 minutes as you could wish to see without us losing.
Yeah, that was certainly all the stuff I saw suggested exactly that it was a hard watch for all concerned. I wonder I know I've been at games before where after about 10 minutes you can say this is going to be 0-0. And you just sort of know it will be. I don't know if this is quite in that mould, but certainly the team shape was a bit different. And I completely forgot, of course, about Giroud starting, which I don't know if we should read anything into that apart from just giving people a break. Pete, any thoughts on the teams or anything else in that in the game?
One other positive it had was that Marko Arnautovic didn't score.
Always helpful.
Being as I really hate that guy, I was very pleased to see his goal flagged offside. That was probably the best moment of the whole game, actually, seeing that flag go up. But other than that, yes, as Matt said, it was quite an interesting selection. I'm still confused about Ainsley Maitland-Niles being picked in front of Kolasinac in a back four when he's a right-footed midfield player, it's strange, isn't it? But he did play well, so it doesn't appear to have been a bad decision particularly. It's just a very odd one, isn't it? And as it continued at the weekend, it does seem particularly odd. I mean, it wasn't just a chance of giving him one game against what might be seen as lesser opposition. Sorry, Hammers fans, but he certainly stood up to the test, and maybe that's why he played again at the weekend. Iwobi, I mean, whilst I don't give him as much of a hard time as the guy who sits behind me at home stadium, he's not at his best at the moment, is he? But again, he played reasonably well in that front three, and Jack's performance was, as you might expect, trying to replace Aaron Ramsey, which is difficult, I think, at the moment. And although he did have some good moments and and everyone seems to be thrilled to see him back, and I'm sure we all are. I think it will be interesting to see what happens when Ramsey returns to fitness, as to whether we continue with Jack in that role or not.
That's very interesting, because the one thing I was going to ask you both about was about Wilshire's performance, because obviously he was starting. you've just told us what you thought, Pete. Matt, any thoughts on Wiltshire's perhaps his performance here, and if you think is he working his way back towards the first team, or is he still going to struggle to get in, basically?
No, I think he should be starting. I think he's being made a lot to look a lot better by Xhaka's was dreadful form. You can at least see what Wilshere adds to the team. He sort of picks up the ball and drives. And I think it was the second half against West Ham. He had a shot sort of on the half volley, which he probably should have done better with, but it went over. So he got involved. I mean, he's perhaps not the Messiah everyone was hoping he was going to be when he's been on the bench all this time. But I was impressed, and even when Ramsey's back, I hope to see him in the team because, yeah, Xhaka is wearing thin. I've never seen someone who so easily gives in to peer pressure. As soon as he's 45 yards out, someone from the crowd will urge him to shoot. And as soon as you hear it, you're like, why have you done that? Because Xhaka cannot resist. He will wildly swing at the ball. And he's getting worse. They're getting further away. But I think we need to urge anyone who's there live, do not encourage him to shoot because he cannot resist it.
There you are, Pete. You've just got to shush everyone around you at the home games if he gets the ball within. So yeah, anywhere in our half. Quite interesting looking at the stats from this game. Sorry, I'll just jump in with these while I remember them. Arsenal had 70% of the possession. They had 700 passes exactly, according to these stats here, and whereas West Ham had just about 300, which is rather neat symmetry between the ball possession and the passes. But yeah, we couldn't do anything with it. It was the same as ever, and my concern was I did come in from being out just in time to see Hernandez. I assumed he was going to score, but the ball cannoned back off the bar, and we got away with it. I think it was a few minutes from the end. Pete, were you going to say anything about anything else that we need to mention for this match?
Well, only that it's worth remembering it was David Moyes, and he does seem to have revitalised them to some extent. And they're not a bad team, West Ham. They've had a terrible season up to this point, but Moyes does seem to have got them back on track, and particularly to have got them incredibly well organised. And that's the teams that, as we know, we struggle against. So maybe we shouldn't be too disappointed about that. I mean, it was incredibly frustrating, but when you see a team, I mean, they really did pack the penalty area with every single one of their players, as far as I can see, and we just couldn't find a way through. And we're always going to struggle against teams like that. We've always struggled against David Moyes' sides in the past. So, while it was a poor result, maybe we shouldn't be too dispirited by it.
Yeah, and it's another thing that sort of looks at our away results being not particularly great this year, or this season, I should say. But on the other hand, it's a point. I mean, in a week when actually there was a few others having a few stumbles around, apart from Man City, of course, but the rest are sort of having their own mistakes as well. So yeah, let's take the point and move on. And we should move on immediately to Saturday. Sorry, go on.
What I mean is maybe the draw against Southampton was more disappointing in some way.
In hindsight, yes, given what Leicester did to them in the following game, yes. But let's take a couple of away points and hope we can improve on that in the new year, or indeed before, because there's plenty of games coming up over the next couple of weeks. Right, let's move on then to a 3 o'clock Saturday kickoff. A bit of a surprise for us. Arsenal-Newcastle. Now, another similar game, as it turned out, in terms of there not being a huge amount to shout about. There was, of course, the odd moment of excellence, which we will come on to. Arsenal won 1-0, single goal from Mesut Ozil in the first half. I thought I was going to miss this one due to a local football fixture, but the frost killed that one, so I was able to find a dodgy stream and catch up with this. Although, interesting, I want to come to you first here, Pete, because there did seem to be a lot of empty seats. Even I know sometimes the games around Christmas can be like that, but I was mildly surprised to see plenty of empty seats on a Saturday afternoon in December. Or was it just the ones I could see on the telly? Was it a bit? I mean, there's still loads of people there, of course, but I was just curious, as you were there, for what your opinion was of that.
No, I didn't. I must say I didn't particularly notice a huge amount of emptiness. It was pretty reasonable, I thought.
Perhaps huge number wouldn't be quite fair of me, but a reasonable number of empty red spots around. That was all.
We've had quite a few of the the bog standard games at home that have had that sort of attendance. To be honest, I don't think it was a lot less than anything else particularly. We've had some awful attendances, but this wasn't one of them, I don't think.
Okay, well let's look at the team news then. So Lacazette back in here to start. Iwobi still there, of course, and Wiltshire, Maitland-Niles. Matt, anything surprising in the team, or as we're expecting, apart of course, obviously from Xhaka still playing?
Yeah, Maitland-Niles still being at left back was a surprise. I give it 3 months of him being in the team before he's turned into a nervous wreck who is unrecognisable, as Callum Chambers and Rob Holding have gone before him.
Yeah.
So I hope for his sake he gets dropped soon. It might not be too late to save him. But no, the team it was good to see Lacazette back, even if he didn't have a great game. And Iwobi was still there, probably because of a lack of other options in midfield. And yeah, as you said, Xhaka was there, but to be expected. I just think there's a lot of players who are far too comfortable with the fact that however they play, they'll get in the team. You know, Bellerin has no competition. Kolasinac now apparently does have competition from Maitland-Niles, but you know, Xhaka seems to play every week, and we've spoken about Sanchez anyway. So I think that is a concern, because the form of a lot of players is pretty terrible at the moment.
Yeah, I think that's right. I'm just looking at some stats here, and Xhaka's pass success rate, I don't know how accurate these particular stats are, is in the low 80s, 81.4 for this particular game, compared to somewhere like Wiltshire, who is exactly 10% higher, 91.4, and Monreal is around the 91 mark. Even Maitland-Niles is 87, 88. It's we are running into a period, it seems, where for whatever reason there is a drop in form in some of these people that we spent a lot of money on and we're relying on quite a lot, and whether it is complacency or something is a very interesting discussion to have. Pete, any thoughts on the starting 11?
Regards, just coming back to Xhaka, he does try a lot more adventurous stuff than Jack does. So, you know, I mean, Jack may be driving things and making fairly reasonably short passes to get people in and get play going forward, but Xhaka is much more adventurous, so it's kind of not surprising that he doesn't have quite such a good pass completion rate in any particular game. Just to defend him a little bit.
No, fair enough. Good point.
It was. We of course forgot to say about West Ham that Giroud had kept his place from the previous game to that, after having played quite well. And against West Ham, he was really completely anonymous, and so it was obviously the best thing to do to have Lacazette back. I think, to be honest, Lacazette didn't make the most of his opportunity of coming back in, and he certainly wasn't as impressive in that game as he has been previously. Particularly when he had two good chances to score, and on both occasions took the wrong option, really, didn't he? Particularly with the chip, which, while I thought actually probably chipping was the right thing to do at that point, I'm not sure that he didn't execute it very well, did he?
Well, and he was very frustrated coming. Well, the story was he was very frustrated. He came off because the classic modern footballer symbol. He threw his gloves on the floor, I believe, as he came off. Or maybe I'm confusing him with someone else. But
why was he wearing gloves?
Sorry.
Why was he wearing gloves?
Well, that's obviously
the big issue here.
Obviously, we'll come. I'm
just
sure we'll
throw
come
them on the floor earlier.
Well, let's get back to the game briefly, because it wasn't quite the same as West Ham game. Or say the bits I saw of the West Ham game, which wasn't very much in the end. But I thought Arsenal looked very lively at the start. They looked like the only team who were really going for it. And then we were rewarded with a rather good goal. Matt, would you like to talk us through that one?
Yeah, it was a brilliant finish. It was a bit bobbly to start with. Sanchez had his shot blocked, I think. Then did a pretty impressive leap to at least challenge for it, and then Ozil sort of red rails going, backed off towards it, and then the ball dropping over his head as he's moving backwards to volley it like that was incredible skill. And he played a bit deeper, I thought, than usual. And a couple of months ago, if you would have said that these past few weeks, it'll be Ozil pretty much single-handedly driving us forward in most games. You wouldn't have expected it, but he's in a really good run of form, and we're grateful for it because it's just about keeping us doing well.
It is keeping us in touch. I have to say, the only thing I was disappointed about was because he was a glove wearer, I believe. I mean, we're getting into gloves again, which wasn't necessarily my plan. But he did his
regular 4 now.
You make them sound like a rogues gallery.
There's Ozil, Xhaka, and Lacazette.
Anyway, he has. He's got all the names. So we'll keep
Sorry.
an eye. No, absolutely. Someone needs to keep an eye on these things. The only thing that bugged me was when Ozil scores, he has, is it a thumb-sucking celebration or whatever? And the idea of him putting his teeth on the gloves put my teeth completely on edge, because I don't know if you've ever, if you get a woolen...
It's not a good feeling.
Oh, a woolen glove on your teeth. Horrible.
Right.
So that bothered me. Just watching someone else do it bothered me. But perhaps that's my problem. There's been a bit of discussion since this goal about will he stay or will he go kind of thing. Now, perhaps we shouldn't get too much into that, or indeed read too much into that, but given his form at the moment, given this great goal, given our preference perhaps to keep him sort of rather than not, Pete, any thoughts as to whether we'll still be seeing him, not so much in February, but in August, or shall I say September?
Crikey.
Sorry, it's a bit out of the blue, but I thought I'd ask. That
is out of the blue, and I don't think we can in any way know. Sorry, I just I think if he's going to sign a new contract, he would do so before the end of the season. So, and I really hope he does. I think we can see that he out of him and Sanchez, if we can only keep one, we'd prefer to keep Ozil, wouldn't we?
I think so. Yeah, I mean, obviously I'm being a bit unfair asking you what you think might happen, but I'm going to ask Matt the same thing. If you had to guess at the moment, do you think he might still be here at this time next season?
I think he will, actually.
Okay.
I do. Blind faith for once. I desperately hope so, but maybe that's because the alternative without him is not looking great. But who knows? If it looks like he will go, maybe Walcott will go on one of his resurgent runs when it looks like a new contract is in the offing, and he could be the man we need. But no, I think Ozil will sign a new contract. Maybe because the demand for him probably wasn't as high as it was for Sanchez recently. I mean, that's probably flips now, but yeah, I think he's definitely more likely to stay than Sanchez.
Well, you've nailed your colours. We won't hold you to that, but it's nice that you seem quite confident at the start there. Back to the game then. I mean, this was just one of those games, isn't it? 1-0 to the Arsenal. When it's 1-0, even though Arsenal were completely on top, obviously it doesn't take much. I was certainly starting to feel a little uneasy when Newcastle had a rather good spell over the last sort of a 15-minute period towards the end of the second half. They seemed to look very useful. Matt, were you concerned?
Yeah, I was, especially when the crosses started going in. That usually spells disaster. It was just annoying because we had been so on top, but while it's 1-0, we're always in danger. Our defence has been a bit shaky recently. Koscielny and Bellerin not at their best, and a bit more clinical finishing from Newcastle, and they really could have punished us, but Cech made a good save when he pushed it out wide. And I think Perez had a header which he probably should have done better with, which just went wide. So we held on in the end, but a better team than Newcastle probably would have punished us because we kept a clean sheet. But defensively, we're not in a very good place at the moment, I don't think.
No, it's very interesting, Pete. Those Newcastle chances would have been at the end. I know you would have been sitting. That must have been a somewhat nervy.
Yeah, a little nervy, yeah, and I can't say I enjoyed it at all.
No, having a good view is not the same as enjoying it, of course. No.
And it was very worrying, and I mean, it comes down to our inability to put the game to bed earlier, and I think when we're not able in those situations to just say, okay, we'll sit there and make sure we win this game 1-0. And we continue to go out, even though it's getting late in the game, to try and second goal and finish it off, which is probably good for us. I doubt we could sit there and manage the game enough. But I think that's why you get those nervous moments towards in the last sort of 15 minutes, because we're still out there trying to win the game, rather than being able to sit there and manage it for the 1-0 in the way we might have known Arsenal teams do in the past.
Okay, let's move on then. Let's take the win and move on, because it wasn't the prettiest, but it was 3 points, and that's what we want. I won't go through all the stuff that happened in the table over the last week. Obviously, there's 2 games, but we sit 5th on 33 points, a point ahead of Burnley in 6th, and a point behind Liverpool in 4th. Played 18 league games now, so we can have a little half-term report after our next pod. We are 5 behind Chelsea and 8 behind Man United, and that might as well be about 1 million behind Man City. It's actually 19, which means we are closer to the bottom of the table than the top, near enough, or the bottom 3 at least. But that's using Man City as the yardstick is a little bit unfair at the moment. So certainly 4th place was still in touch, although it does look like it might be a bit of a dogfight. With the greatest respect to Burnley, I'm not sure they'll still be there in sort of 10 games' time. But Spurs, Liverpool, Arsenal look like they're realistically the teams to be fighting for that, so we will of course keep an eye on that. But let's move on then to predictions and previews. So as usual, we all get points for the Newcastle game, but only a point each, and we all nobody gets a point for the West Ham game, because no one said it would be a draw. So everything is as you were in that particular competition. This week then we have 2 games, two home games. Home to West Ham on Tuesday night in the Carabao Cup. I'm never really sure how to say that. League Cup I'm going to stick with, it'll be easier.
League Cup.
Yeah, it works. And then on Friday evening, a somewhat more important game at home to Liverpool. Right, let's do predictions and previews. So let's start with Matt. If I can have a word or two on, just do both of them. In your own time, and a prediction, please.
Yeah, the West Ham game, I know it's the quarterfinals and nice beat a semi-final, but it's only a few days before we do play Liverpool, so I'm expecting a fair bit of rotation, probably a similar team to the one we've used in the Europa League so far. Whereas, I don't know, West Ham might see it as a decent chance of going far in the competition, might take it a bit more seriously. I can see it being another pretty boring game. I will go, I think we might lose. I'm sorry, I'm going to put it out there. I'm going to go 2-1 West Ham.
Wow, I have to do a different way round on the prediction table when the Arsenal losing score comes first.
And a miserable prediction takes me nicely on to Arsenal-Liverpool on Friday. Liverpool aren't very good when teams sit back and make it tough for them. Unfortunately, we're not very good at sitting back and making it tough for teams. So when Liverpool have had space to attack teams, they've destroyed them, including us earlier this season. But we are better at home. I think if we play Maitland-Niles, that would be a huge decision, considering he'll be up against Salah, who's probably been one of the best players in the league so far. And we can't afford to get caught on the break at all with the pace they have up front. Otherwise, we're going to be in massive trouble. I'll go vaguely optimistic with a 2-2. I think that's as optimistic as I'm willing to go.
Okay, interesting. So you've got us going out of the cup and getting a point at home in the league.
Merry Christmas, everyone.
I like the thinking, but you know, there's a reality check there for us as well, perhaps. Pete, let's see what your mood is for these two.
Oh, I'm certainly not feeling realistic. I shall go for complete fantasy. Although for the West Ham game, can I just confirm? We are predicting the 90-minute
Absolutely,
score.
Yep, 90-minute rules, yep.
And Matt wants to stick with his
Yes.
West Ham. Yeah.
I do.
Okay. So I will go for 1-1
Oh.
at night.
Okay.
and Arsenal win it in extra time with a hat-trick from Eddie Nketiah.
Well, I won't put it in the prediction league, but we've all, this is being recorded, so we've got that. That's good. All right, Liverpool then.
But 1-1 is my prediction, and probably again, as Matt says, with a very youthful and Europa League type side, with the sort of experience that we tend to see in those. So I'm sure Giroud and Walcott and Welbeck, etc., will make an appearance. But hopefully, other than that, it will be a fairly fun and entertaining young side. And the Liverpool game, can we just not think about it, really? Would be nice.
Give me a prediction. You don't have to think about it then for 4 days or whatever it is.
Go for it. 2-1 Arsenal.
2-1 Arsenal. Okay.
What a ridiculous thing to say.
Oh my goodness.
Well, I've done my, as I get into the habit of now, I've put my predictions in before I spoke to either of you, and I'm going to stick with them. I'm not going to change them now, because I'd sort of forgotten, in terms of the League Cup, that whilst the Europa League team is pretty much what I'm expecting to see, obviously injuries and whatnot aside, I'd forgotten that West Ham may not be taking it, they may take it more seriously. So I've gone with a 2-0 Arsenal win. Just because it's West Ham, I don't like West Ham very much anyway. But also, I think we should be looking to beat anyone at home in a cup quarter-final. But I was forgetting West Ham might put quite a strong team out. But then again, it's a busy time of year. They might make a few changes, and ultimately their league position is still not particularly healthy, so they might want to focus on that first. So I've gone 2-0 there. So that means we've covered the win, draw, and defeat there with that game. Nice. So that's very exciting. I've gone for a 1-0 win against Liverpool, partly because I don't like predicting.
Clean sheet.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. I don't know where I got that from. Actually, now I think about it, it's a brave call. Given how I think Liverpool can be very one way or the other from what I've seen.
I thought I was fantasist.
Well, I've seen them be obviously brilliant and score lots of goals sometimes against us, but I've also seen them not look quite as impressive. And obviously they had a 0-0 themselves at home against, I think it was West Brom, wasn't it, just last week? So they are obviously capable of not scoring, if that doesn't sound like a slightly backward compliment. But yeah, I'm being slightly optimistic, but I'm also thinking our home record has been excellent all season, with the Man United blip aside. I wonder what kind of defence we'll see. I don't know what's going on with Kolasinac at the moment. I think this kind of game, could be very good for him to play, but if there's a problem of some description, obviously that's something to be considered. So I don't know. I'm not feeling confident. I'm feeling hopeful. Perhaps would be the better way of putting it. So that's my excuse. So we'll see how that plays out on Friday. Right. Well, I think we're done then for today. We will be back at some point over the weekend, Saturday or Sunday. We will be somewhere between the Liverpool game finishing and Christmas Day, so you can have we can go with your sprouts or whatever it is, which may be appropriate. There's a turkey gag there somewhere to make as well, but I can't think of it. But until then, we'll leave you in peace. So I will say thank you very much, Pete.
Thank you very much, Matt, and I hope you enjoy the week as much as your prediction seems to.
That would be nice, wouldn't it? And thank you very much, Matt.
Thank you. I fear next week's podcast is going to be more interesting in terms of the games, but maybe a bit less successful in terms of the results.
Well, I suppose when we signed up to do this, or actually we haven't signed up to anything, but when
we can go out whenever.
Yeah, we don't actually have to keep doing this, but I suppose we need rough and smooth. And to be fair, in the year and a half we've been doing it, or season and a half, it's certainly been a bit of both, to say the least. But well, thank you very much, both of you, for joining me, and we will speak to you all at some point this weekend. And have a good week. We'll speak to you then. Take care. Bye bye.